Hello, and welcome to the Akash and Friends podcast. This is the 7th or 9th time we are trying to get this thing started. Today, yet another episode in what is a week full of episodes. Every day you're getting an episode on the website. Thank you, patrons, for giving money and patronage to this podcast and letting it come out once a week. We are able to do this thanks to you. Here today is somebody I wanted to get earlier in the studio because she has a very infectious physical energy to her. And she also drops me home because she lives nearby. We have Anu Menon. Now you might that's Anu. Now they can see you, Anu. This whole time.
Okay.
Now they can see you. That's how the edit will be. They'll see you, and you'll be like a reveal. As I say Anu, they'll be like, who could it? Who's the Anu? And then as the M comes out,
it's me. Okay. Yeah. Cool. I'm just giving you options in case.
Okay, cool. I think we can do a music video now out of this. Thank you for being on the podcast.
But I just want to know who's giving you money to do this.
So this is a listener funded podcast. I started it as a passion project, and then around I think Marchish we ran out of money because of this whole thing happened, no? And so then I said, guys, you please give money now to make this happen. Because otherwise there's nothing that can come out. There's no YouTube revenue se thodi hone wala kuch. And this is not
very generous of them.
They are great people, man. They all of you. Thank you. Where's the camera today? Today the camera is here. And I use two cameras. I have my mobile phone nicely set up as a camera as well.
Wow.
That is the this has become like a routine now for me, weirdly.
I'm surprised that they have not been given grief by their friends saying, "Arey, why are you giving Akash Mehta money when you can be giving it to migrant workers?"
Yeah.
Because that's where
But
we're
I
at.
actually pay a bunch of migrant workers.
Okay, so then see, now you earned your place in heaven.
We have salaries. How has the lockdown been? The last time I saw you, you dropped me till your house, and then and that was the last show I did.
That was actually the last. Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
The last show that we did, March 15th. I still remember it. Not that I have a head for dates. Stop it. But yeah, I've been okay pretty much. I think I've been on a steady diet of denial and Korean drama. It's been working well for me.
What K-drama are you?
I
must interrupt and ask you.
See, I don't have the mind space for anything that is good and deep and important. So people keep talking about Fauda. People keep talking about Pata Lok. I was like, if it's good, dude, mereko nahi chahiye. Because I tried to watch Parasite. I was like, oh, it's the best movie of the year, and I just felt started feeling really uncomfortable. I said, no, let me just watch some mindless shit. I don't know what that says about me and my lack of depth, but that's where we're at.
I don't think it says.
So my husband is currently quite upset because I've never found men from the Far East particularly attractive. Because my theory has been you can't trust a man with less hair on his hand than you. But now suddenly, so Anirudh is like, all this while I've been losing out to Ryan Reynolds, to Kevin Peterson. I was okay. Now you're telling me I'm losing out to Ji Chang-wook and Song Joong Ki.
So that's which shows are you watching? Because I've been watching these with my mom as well. We have now moved past your Korean starter pack serials. We are now on Chinese serials.
Oh no, I won't watch Chinese serials. That's very anti-national of you. Stop. Not a chance.
She takes it as a...
Here I'm not eating Ching's noodles and you have the audacity to watch Chinese shows.
You're not eating
Shame
Ching's noodles? Did you also uninstall Snapdeal when the Snapchat thing happened?
Never had it to begin with. So it's fine.
I think a lot of people who will be watching this or listening this remember you as... Do you want to talk about Lola Kutti? Do you care enough?
It's up to you. If you want me to, do you want me to talk about it? I will talk about it. This is your show. Whatever you want to talk about, I'll talk about it.
Because it's for me, you and Cyrus are in this one space in my mind. Of the people that I have had the chance to work with or whatever, you two are different. Because I was fanboying about y'all way before, Saurabh Pant wasn't doing shit when I was growing up. You know what I mean? So Saurabh and I can be friends. But with y'all, there is a reverence of sorts.
Right. Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's true because I grew up you are a part of pop culture. You are a part of pop culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, look, everything is. I mean, I guess everything is time and place. I think to like a lot of people ask me, oh, do you feel you got typecast as Lola? You know, people still talk about. And honestly, the truth is, I feel like I have forgotten so many things about the character that when I meet people, they remind me of certain interviews or certain instances, and it's damn cute. I'll still on Insta get pictures from people. You know, you interviewed me in this mall for Lola GK and stuff, and it's it's sweet. So it was. I did it for a really long time, and I had the best time doing it. The channel took a huge risk at the time because, as you know, music television was huge, and it was the one-stop shop for all things cool and hip and with it. And so I was like, look, I'm not cut out to be cool. And so let's just flip. How about I be this character? Because I just come back from drama school in London. So I was like, oh, let's be a character. Someone you wouldn't expect to see on a music channel is the antithesis of cool, etc., etc. Let's be subversive. So then they were also like, should we do this? And at that time, I remember my boss telling me, which I think was my first introduction to something that I hadn't thought of, which is you should wear glasses and all, because otherwise you look too attractive. So the idea of you have to look funny in order to be funny, which is, I think, and honestly, I don't see that much having changed today also when one does stand
Really? Like
I was once asked, do you think so and so is funny because she's fat? That was an actual question. So I was like, wow, that's where we're still at in 2000. This is 2019. So so precious little has changed. But yeah, I do think it came in the way of my item number career. I feel like I could also have done Kala Chashma, but they were like, no, ye Katrina nahi ban sakti. But I think at some level it's weird because people have seen you a certain way for so long. I will still get called for, there's a role in this Netflix show as a Malayali nurse or a Malayali nun, and I was like, it's been a long time, dude. Like, I quit in 2011. Yeah. It's a long time.
Did you get bored of it?
So initially
by the end of it?
Bored of what? The reference?
Of the character, of being the character.
But I haven't in a long. Like, I do it once in a way.
No, I'm talking about back then.
Lola
when it was at its
back
peak.
then. It was just, I guess it was habit, right? Like, you were just used to it, and the thing is, the character was the same, but the type of job never was. The person I was interviewing was never the same. So the situation was never the same, which was always. So you didn't know what to expect. So that was always kept you excited and kept you on your toes.
But that was actually my favorite part about it, because for a lot of people it was the jokes themselves. But to me, watching it was always the fact that, man, this are they scripting this? How is this? How is she always? Like, it was always the right thing. Like, you were there. Like, you were in it. You didn't have to. I don't think a lot of that was scripted, right?
No. I mean, I did my research and I had some questions, and then the interview goes where it goes. And I think that's what it was, I guess, suppose interesting for someone to see a lay person asking questions, because honestly these days every interview is a celebrity asking another celebrity. So ghar ki baat hai na, so there's no art of interviewing like there is abroad. Like Graham Norton it's poetry in motion to watch him interview because it's an art form where we don't take it seriously in the same way in this country. So because the power dynamic is different, right? When you're an everyman interviewing a celebrity, there is always that dynamic. You are always here, they are always here. And also, I think what people have to, I feel like today there are so many characters and things like that, but when you are a character, you have to understand, you have to also react as the character.
Exactly.
Which I think people, like, it's not about Anu reacting to, like, there are a lot of times, and I say this, when I was interviewing, like, really hot guys or whatever, they would always come on to Lola because in their head they thought it was cute. Right, so they'd be like, in my house I have a spare bedroom, why don't you come and stay over sometime? And the audience also laughed because Lola looked the way she did and they looked the way they did. But if they said the same thing to a really hot VJ, like an Archana Vijay or something, it would come through as sleazy, right? Because the dynamic is different. So here was this, character with the glasses and the gajra and all that. So it came through differently. But actually the words are the same. There's a free room in my house, right? So I can't react as Anu, and so I'll have to react as a little, be shy, and so I think that's, if any time someone says what is something that you have to think about when you're playing a character, it's that you've got to think as the character. sometimes it's not about giving the funny line, but just a natural
Exactly.
reaction as XYZ person.
Yeah. Was it always on your head to do drama school? Like, was it always the intention growing up?
No one will believe me now because I talk 19 to a dozen, but I was a very like painfully shy child. Like I was like in 9th grade, my mom came to school for the parent teacher meeting, and the teacher said, you know, Mrs. Menon, your daughter is not dumb, she's mum. And my mother was heartbroken. Like she would rather had a dumb child than a mum child. You know what I mean? Like she's like, why don't you just talk? So I think when I first went on stage at age 14, it was under dire threat because my mom said, I will go to your school principal because you're inflicting all your stories on me when you come back from school, but why don't you do it on stage? And I was like, I'll forget lines, and all that. And so I finally went, got through the audition, and then sort of like that was the pivot, right? So for me now, stage is always my first love. So I feel like any place in the world you perform, a stage feels like home because I think there is something about the way a musty theatre smells that is very warm and welcoming. So yeah.
And was there a... So I mean, but that's what's interesting to me. So you went to drama school to London, knowing full well you're going to come back and do theatre.
Yeah, so my mom's like, look, if it's something you really want to do, you should pursue it. Now I was like, really? Is that even viable?
That's very liberal, man.
So at that time, yeah, it is. I mean, but also my parents were like these two Malayali people who were in advertising. So they'd already broken the South Indian stereotype, right, in that sense. And so I had the luck and the good fortune of being surrounded by very artsy, fun people, right? Because advertising was full of those sort of people. So, and because I couldn't obviously afford to go to London just to audition, so I had to send a video cassette, okay, of one Shakespearean monologue, one modern monologue. I had to sing, I had to dance and tell them why I wanted to join drama school. So the other day it was so funny because I had to explain to my 7-year-old what a video cassette was. This is a video cassette, this is a VCR, this is a camera, this is a DVD. And he was like, what is this freaking New World Order? I was like, old world order, baby, old world order. So I managed to get a mini scholarship as well, and I went. So I think the idea at that time was come to Bombay. I will get a television job that will support my theatre habit, and I'll just travel the world doing plays. Yeah. So that was because stand-up was not even an option then, right?
Yeah,
it was just it wasn't really a thing in India, and the plan worked out like that. But it also had this thing. Like once I was doing a play on Gandhi, and I was Sarojini Naidu, and from the audience, like, "Arey, Lola madam, Lola mami, Lola." And I was giving some impassioned speech on freedom, midnight hour, Nehru, and all.
Oh no!
So all those things happened.
Did you always have a proclivity towards comedy, or was it like happenstance over there?
I suppose so. I think I was always quite sarcastic. But I never even people still ask me like, why did you get into stand-up? I was like, I would have gotten in a little earlier, but then I was pregnant and then I had to take time off and blah, blah, blah. And I don't think at that time India was ready for an Ali Wali type person to waddle on stage talking about stuff. But it seemed like a natural progression. I mean, the stage is not a new place to me. It's not something I don't. So I suppose it defines my training and stuff, defines a style of comedy that I do, which is always going to be story-based, which is also always going to be more theatrical and more performance-based possibly than another person.
Yeah, which I've noticed. And I think that's really nice. Even when I was watching your special, I like you're a presenter of punchlines. You know, I used to always say that about Aditya Desai also. Like I feel like I'm being given a show. It's a very nice feeling. With other comics, like with myself included, if I were to watch me, इधर आके बैठ के सुन ऐसा है. It's not. I don't feel like very valued as an audience member. I think I don't know why my audience even comes back. But with you, I feel like, oh man, it's a treat. Like you're putting up a show. It's like the effort is almost implied, like, you know what I mean, and that makes it more special. Usually with comedy, the thesis is the more effort, it should look effortless to be this thing, but with you it looks like I think I've lost you. Have I lost you? Are you frozen?
Akash, I've lost you.
Anu is frozen. Anu?
Hello.
Hi. Yeah, I can. Oh, there you are again.
There I am. Yes.
I was in an
Sorry.
impassioned
Yes, I'm
speech
back.
about how much I love your style of comedy. Basically, it's damn nice because it feels like
Thank you.
ये बंदा effort करके आया. You know what I mean? And I think it's all of it. Like it's it's everything from your posture to your delivery. It's the feeling that you inhabit Anu as a character when you go on stage. Almost.
You know, a lot of times, like that's that weird thing, right? I think stand-up is an art form where we are the closest version of ourselves, whoever we are
Yeah.
at that point of time, right? So when I always have an issue when people say, when so-and-so found his voice as a comedian. And I was like, what does that mean? His voice in 2020 is different from his voice in 2015, different from his voice in 2025, right? So it is the person you are at that point in your life, always. And I don't know about, or even like, you know, the other day Kunal Rao and I were having this discussion where he said like every comedian has a shtick. Right, so if you're a black comedian in America, whether you're Chappelle, whether you're Kevin Hart, you're always talking about being black, or you're talking about police brutality. If you're an Asian comedian, you're talking about being Asian. So this idea of do you only talk about the things you know, is a shtick even important? So when I first started stand-up, I was so used to being a character. I was so used to being a character in a play, used to being a character as Lola Kuti, that the idea of who Anu was on stage also was a bit alien. Like, who is Anu on stage? Because I had no idea, because I was never just me ever, right? So it took me also a bit of time to like experiment with that. From an audience point of view also, it was kind of divided when I first started stand-up. Half the audience was happy that I looked nothing like Lola. The other half were unhappy, that I looked nothing like Lola or sounded nothing. So I will still get, like, I once got a message from someone to say that I apparently ruined her entire childhood and put it in the dumpster.
Wow.
Because with my first stand-up video release, she was like, you know, you used to be Lola and now you've come to this modern person with a dress, you speak with this clipped English accent, with your hair like that. What's going on? How dare you play with my childhood?
Wow.
And I was like, suddenly I'm responsible for her childhood. It's too much.
You're a mom to 2 people now.
But yeah, it's crazy, dude. But I think so. That's always so. I find that so like I talk. There's another interesting point I'll tell you, which I found. I like. You know, I always have great respect for people who have an opinion. I don't have to agree with your opinion. But I just have an issue if you're Switzerland, you know? Like, you need to take a stand on something.
Yeah.
I was told, like, I like a story from someone. Because I feel like from a comedian, I get to know something about that person on stage. Like, you'll tell me something about you, I'll get to know something about you, as opposed to, petrol prices. You know? There's nothing wrong with that comedy, but I also like that slight vulnerability of who that person is. And initially, I used to think that women have more of a propensity to get into the story element. But then someone told me, this friend of mine called Mukesh Manjunath, who's a writer, he said, actually, if you think about it, minorities have a propensity to tell stories. Maybe because it's also of centuries of being suppressed, that suddenly when you have a voice, you're telling stories. So a Kevin Hart will tell you a story. Because he's a black comedian. So there's, something to that, I think, as well. Being perhaps a minority. That, now I'm going to tell you a bit about blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I think, and it's I remember this whole conversation of...
Why I'm losing you so much, Akash?
I don't know. My network is fine only. It's showing you as fine. Is it showing my little, on the bottom left of your screen, where my name is? Does it show a yellow colored network bar or a white colored network bar?
Why I'm losing you? I'm losing you.
Oh no. That's... Is the network, is it showing my network as weak?
Pardon?
Bottom left of your screen where my name is?
No, as in your frame is frozen, but I can hear you.
Okay. That...
your frame is frozen, but I can hear you.
That's okay. Okay. My it's not like I make a lot of expressions when I talk anyway. As long as you can hear me.
Hello, hello.
Oh
hello,
no.
Hello, hello.
We have lost Anu again. Anu?
Okay, say.
Okay, I'm glad this is working. Okay, this is...
Now you're back. Say.
Okay, good. of all the things to go wrong on a podcast. You know, in Niti's podcast, her dog entered the room and almost knocked stuff over.
That's good. In my case, I've locked the door, so my 7-year-old can't really come into there and say, "Oh, by the way, prime numbers."
Do you? So yeah, we were talking about in happening. I think what you are saying about the voice, people finding the voice.
Yeah.
I think it's because with a lot of us, we really don't like you said. You know, minorities have stories to tell. I am as privileged as it gets, almost. मतलब एक कास्ट से रह गया ऐसा, you know, and so for someone like me, at least I don't know if other people like me feel this when they are doing stand up, but it was a very big thing to get over ki what am I talking about, like what am I saying, and do I need to be saying things right now, or should I just be shutting up when it came to anything I wanted to talk about, you know, and I think that's where finding the voice is, because we don't know what we want to say. We don't have a solid perspective. Plus, I was 18 when I started. So, what opinion can an 18-year-old? What opinion should an 18-year-old have? No opinion. You know, and I think that's what finding the voice is. It's a learning to say things. Ek to how to say things, whether or not to say things, what to say, and the other is just the craft of stand-up itself.
Gosh, I'm losing you again, no?
Okay, let me try this with a Google Hangout app. Do you want to try it that way? But that can't record. So let me.
No, you continue. Now I can hear you again. Say hello.
Yeah.
Basically, it just keeps oscillating.
So it's between having something relevant to say or being able to say, and then being able to say it relevantly. With you, when you started doing stand-up, you had a lot of theatre. You understood the mechanics of performance as soon as you got in, which is why I think you have kind of found your voice much sooner. And I think that's what finding the voice is. Of course, the voice will change, but एक बार पकड़ने को तो चाहिए. I realize my shtick is screaming at people. You know? I scream and I laugh at my own jokes because I am having the time of my life. And it's born out of just the sheer frustration of being at open mics with 3 people, knowing you've been doing it for 9 years or whatever, and just like laughing because I'm like, तुम लोग नहीं हंस रहे, मेरे को कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. This is hilarious to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's also such a leveler, right? At whatever level we're saying. I mean, sometimes this, you know, there's another thing which I find interesting when and comedians are so guilty of this, because I think everyone's just so up their own ass also at some level, which is this idea of punching up in comedy. Like, people keep talking about that all the time. Oh, we must never punch down, just keep punching up in comedy, da. But but I'm saying, like, you can't keep shitting on a person like Kapil Sharma. He has his audience, na? He charges 3 crores for a show when he goes to Dubai. Oof. So I'm saying, like, that's his thing. Now that's his take. Now this is what he talks about. And there is the mass of mankind who go for that. So now you can't be judgy about it. So I think here, for us, comedians also so elitist in that we play both ways. So Karan Johar said something to Kangana that was unfair. Nepotism, always punch up in comedy, never punch down. Comedian के बारे में कुछ बोलो तो अरे freedom of speech ऐसा मत बोलो यार. If you don't like it, don't watch it. So you can't have it both ways, na? So like pick a side. Or say that there's enough space for everyone.
I think that's as much a product of just this whole idea that if you are on social media, you need to have a cause. I think it's like they think it's
what hypocrisy.
हाँ, ऐसा compulsory है कि अगर cause नहीं रहा ना तो how can she tweet?
How can she slap? Yeah.
I am always happy when people get that reference because it's from an old world order. Wait, what was I saying?
Sorry. On that note, can I just tell you something about the new old world order? So a year ago, I was doing some show and I met this kid who is part of the show in. So he had to say, "Ma'am, go on stage now," all that jazz. Born in 1999. So we were having a discussion about cricket. और कुछ तो और I said something Viv Richards. उसने बोला कि Viv Richards कौन है?
What?
तो मैंने कहा मसाबा का पिताजी. तो उसने बोला अच्छा ठीक है. And I was like, this is the world we live in. Viv Richards is मसाबा का पिताजी. And I didn't know whether to be mildly like heartbroken, shattered. What I didn't know like how to assess this, how to come to terms with my feelings.
Have you ever tried? So when I go to college fest and kids don't know what I'm talking about, I just make up names and historical events, and then tell them, "तेरे को ये नहीं पता है? अरे नहीं हुआ था ये?" And they're like, "हाँ स्कूल में पढ़ा था." I'm like, "Great, good boy." That's how easy it is to manipulate what you know. In fact, there's a very nice experiment.
I never go to college shows only, so it's fine. I only go as a judge.
My Rosie Roti is college shows, so I must interact with them.
Oh, acha.
There is a how do I? Wait, you don't do any college shows? You do corporate shows only.
I've done like 3. Yeah, 3 college shows I've done. It's not, I mean, I wouldn't be the completely wrong fit. Because it's story-based stuff that happens to me in my life. You know, people always tell me, like think that I always talk about Gujjus always. It's not that. It's not about a Gujju thing. It's just because I'm married into a family that happens to be Gujarati. There is a story from that. It is not about the Gujju-ness, which sometimes people do. Like Lola is not about an accent. Like that is something, of course, that adds to the character. But you can't kheecho a character just based on an accent.
Yeah.
Nah. It's all, there has to be some substance also there. So that's what I keep. So like someone says, would that be a shtick? And I was like, no, that's like one thing. But also you latch on to what is most familiar and say, nahi, ye sirf Gujjus ke bare mein jokes maarti hai. It's like that.
But I think
because
there's
it's, I guess, a familiar thing.
Our brains are designed to be lazy and categorize. You know, there's a really nice book called Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely, where he proves this. Like, he proves how your brain is so lazy. It just wants to assign things to things. Like, isko isme dal do. It doesn't matter whether it's accurate or not, but it's just a way for your brain to remember. And people, you know,
like compartmentalize.
Yeah, like and like just everything has a box in our head, na. Like, and we just want, if we find something that's ambiguous, then we get very annoyed.
Yes.
That's why people don't like grey opinions on the internet anymore. No, it's either black or white now.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Do you, coming back to this thing, do you, it must be weird to start writing. Like, I'm sure you did a lot of the preparation and writing for Lola yourself. But with stand-up, then there's also like, it's a huge, I think it's a very different level of writing when it comes to stand-up.
Yes.
How was that transition?
So I mean, it was fine. Like, as I said, like I always just make notes on my phone if I feel like something has a story potential, or if I can give it an arc, I can give it a beginning, middle and end. So even when I write, like I'll write the whole thing, start to finish, just to see whether there is something there. And then you add jokes obviously along the way, but just to see whether I have a good, you know, like the elements are in place. Also sometimes necessarily like some things will appeal to me, some things not going to appeal to like an audience. And sometimes it's always a bit heartbreaking also that the easiest joke is the one that gets the most laughs. So I've realized subconsciously also for me, I don't mind the way I write also now is it'll be layered. There's a very easy joke, there will be some stereotype joke, and there will be a joke that's for me that possibly they don't appreciate as much, but I'm just happy it's there.
That's the perfect.
So I think now it's almost unconsciously it's happened, and I think that's okay. And there's another thing actually, you know, I was discussing with someone where I feel like these days, like what is a stand-up special? It's almost there is a meet point between a TED talk, a theatrical monologue, and comedy, right? Like there's very little difference between the three right now. And almost that you need to talk about this whole idea of truth to power. You need to talk about politics. You need to rage against the system in order to gain respect as a comedian.
That is...
Like, there are these high points you need to hit. But I'm like, what happened to bloody jokes, dude?
I agree.
Because to this day, I will still laugh at the banana peel. And if someone cracks a meta joke, I'm like, it's a great joke. But I'm not laughing. So also these days, like people are clapping over laughs. So I feel like what does a clap indicate? That indicates agreement. Like I'm agreeing with your opinion, so I'm clapping. Not like, ha ha ha. It is, good point. Yeah. So it's an interesting sort of time and for me, I just miss jokes sometimes. Yeah. Like I laughed more for, someone said, I don't know who cracked this, it's so stupid. Oh, the locusts are coming. If the locusts want to go home, they should just contact Sonu Sood. He'll put them on a low-cost airline. And I just burst out laughing. It's so stupid. And I laughed more for that than I have for the last 3 stand-up specials I've watched on Netflix. You know what I mean? And I was like, what has happened to me in this lockdown? I have no perspective anymore.
No, but I think it's always the dumbest jokes, man. My favorite jokes in the world are always the dumbest jokes. My whole attempt at doing the stand-up I do right now is how can I build a superstructure of technical brilliance around this incredibly stupid joke. Like, I will go to great lengths and improve my comedy writing just to be able to do a Bakri Meh joke. Like, I want to, that is the true. And I think, that is true, man. I also miss jokes a lot sometimes. I wish there were more jokes out there. And a lot of it is not even jokes. Like, it's just like a churning of fact. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, I don't...
Like, this speech should have been an email. Like, that's if I have to read that once more.
Did you ever...
The new normal. Stay safe. Stay sane.
Be kind.
That's the worst, dude. That is the worst.
Be kind. मैं 3 एपिसोड से बी काइंड पे ट्रिप कर रहा है तो मैं अभी ये एपिसोड में नहीं करेगा ज्यादा. We'll take a quick break and come back, and I really want to hear more about many questions I have for you, and also I want to hear one of my favorite stories that I've heard from you, which is the taking your son to the World Cup story. So all that and more on the other half of Akash Mehta and Friends, including a camera angle change as well here and some internet improvement. It's gonna be better. We will see you in just a bit.
This episode of the AMF podcast is brought to you by reality show Tubeless. अपने माथे पर घोड़े और अपना नाम रोशन करें. रियलिटी शो ट्यूबलेस. जलाने के लिए नहीं, सिर्फ चबाने के लिए.
Hello, and welcome back. We're back with the second half of Akash Mehta and Friends with Anu Menon this time. Do you what is the welcome back? Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Welcome back, Anu. It's been a grand.
Thanks, Akash.
30 seconds it has been since we finished the first half. It was a good break. I saw you checking your phone. I was worried. You can check it right now if you want. We can edit it out.
No, I was just adjusting it for your mic.
Oh, okay. That is what a dedicated, nice person you are.
No one realizes, Akash. That's a problem. I'm just more than a stone cold bitch, is what I'm trying to say. That's why. Who's your favorite character in WWE? Stone Cold Steve Austin. But duh. Now millennials are like, who is this person?
John Cena is my I love John Cena. It's my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, can't see me. It's my comedy career in a nutshell. People ask me what OTT, can't see me. What was the approach to the special? Did you have it like when you were approached? Did you already know what you were going to do? Did you go to them knowing exactly what you wanted, or was it a process that kind of took a while?
No, I think it happened in a bit of a hurry. Like they wanted it by a certain date, and so I kind of hustled in terms of finding a location. Was a bit of a problem because we had not that much time. So usually you would get a space and you'd shoot 2 shows back to back. I had to do it over 2 days because that space was going for another show. So it was the thing of taking down the set one day, it's heartbreaking, and then putting it back up the next and stuff like that. So obviously I made no money on my first special. But yeah, I mean, look, it's sort of always horrible to watch yourself in any capacity, but also now in a special, you don't have to watch it again. You're like, it's just soul crushing. And there's a word in Tamil, which is Vandi, which is vomit. So it's really like that. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't honestly believe that a special needs to be about a particular thing. Matlab, and because I feel it can be miscellaneous. It's fine. I'm okay with that. People always look for like one common thread because all these things are clever things. No special has to be special. So what is the common thread? How are you ending it? How many callbacks? Like all this jazz. I think we intellectualize things so much sometimes. The good thing about the specials, I didn't overthink it. it was, and then suddenly there's like, just shoot it. Now I'm like, oh, okay, we'll shoot it. But yeah, I mean, it is a big moment, and you know, and I always like intimate spaces more than sort of like huge halls. I like that. There's something lovely about and homely and cozy about a small theatre space. So yeah, and also the fact that it's there are a lot of things you don't realize, you know, about a special. Like Azim Panatwala was in Bangalore at the time when I was shooting, and he watched the first, and he came up with like a lot of suggestions. Very, very nice of him. He said, like, things you don't think about. He was like, don't let people come in with drinks, because the bottle will fall when you're on a punchline. I was like, shit, I didn't even think about that, you know. So, you know, there's small things which are cute. And always there's that one moment when like a comedian will get a joke quicker than the audience member.
Yeah.
So then naturally
Who was in the
I
audience?
started. So then like Azim was there, and I was like, okay, theek hai, it's going fine. The laugh will come first, and then the rest of the audience will come. So there's that. But yeah, like it's a very sort of emotional moment also. Like, oh, yeah.
Is there another one in the works now?
I mean, there's supposed to be, but that was my other thing. Like, what we all used to think pre-COVID is not who we are post-COVID. And now I don't know how the twain shall meet. You know, like, what am I... I'm not a very philosophical comic at all, but I feel like what do I want to say? I'm not sure. I mean, those stories still hold true. Are they still valid? Are they still relevant? Are they still funny? So even these days when I do shows on Zoom, initially it was that shit, like, you know, like,
it's very weird.
What is going on? This bunch of boxes and stuff in front of you. And also when you're used to being a slightly more physical comedian, you feel very restricted. So I can naturally sense in myself I'm talking much louder, because your body is naturally overcompensating for the lack of, you know, movement. But yeah, so like people say, oh, but I think audiences still want to listen to jokes, na? So you'll do a few COVID jokes, but it's not like you can have an entire 20-minute set on COVID. Like, bas ho gaya, sabko pata hai. Life is shit. Like,
yeah, it's more apparent than ever.
Yeah. And also that thing that every day there's something. You're like, what is going on? Like, like one day I just stopped. And I was like, I don't know. Like I physically don't know what is going on. Like, fees bhi bharna hai, but what is the point? Are we going to get through this year? Why am I paying my son's school fees? Education chahiye kya?
It must be so frustrating. I mean, I wouldn't say frustrating perhaps, but it's been a handful having the kid at home all day, no?
Actually, mine has been quite alright. That's the first time in my life I'm quite grateful that my son is not sporty. So he was the kid, like I used to send him for cricket coaching, and all the cricket sir told me, madam, usko na bhaagne ko nahi aata, usko sikha do na. I said, मैं सिखाऊं कि आप सिखाओ, मतलब भागने को नहीं आता, मतलब. So I was like, so that we're starting at that level. So we can act like we're running like Kid Flash, but we are not able to run at all. So and because of that, I think being at home has been okay for him, because he's more sort of creative. He wants to draw, he wants to make some movie, he wants to open a publishing house, he wants to open a barista. Like, what is like weird?
How old is he?
He's going to be 8 in December, so he's 7.5.
How does he know these words?
Usko, like, because I'm his mother. So that's what I do.
Man, that's amazing, dude. I could not have thought of these things as a child.
So the other day, like, I was trying to teach him. I was like, come on, just keep saying hippopotamonstrous escopedaliophobia. So he was like, okay. I was like, if Shashi Tharoor can do it, so can you. Come on, Ayan. Come on, Ayan.
Does it, how was that break? Like, was it I don't know how to phrase this question, because I'm not that good an interviewer, but like, when you decide that you're going to have a kid, you know, it's a very fundamental change for a very long time in terms of, like, as a dude, obviously, but as the person who's going to manufacture the baby, it's a huge hit. In terms of time and bodily effort, and then you have to thin down again. All of this is gonna happen. Is it daunting? Were you when you were going in, did you have a plan? Ki after a while I'm gonna come back, and was any of that? What all was considered?
Look, the good thing is, given this career, you can manage some balance. Like, it's not like a 9 to 5 where I'm out. So I'm pretty much home, and I travel on weekends. So I'm there to wake him up, get him ready for school, do the homework, all of that, projects. Like he called the other day, he said, "You're a fun thug," which I think is a pretty apt description of me. I'm a fun thug. So also knew going in that husband is on ship for half the year, so I will be a single parent for half the year, and I mean most of the time, and I will be the primary influence, I suppose, in my son's life in that sense, right? Is it upsetting that he's not interested in sport? It is a bit, because I feel like I used to play district level tennis. My husband still plays football. We are quite a sporty, like I'm passionate about these things, but he isn't, and I was like, oh, genetics. But I think you can't overthink anything. What has happened is I feel like I have more realistic dreams and ambitions now, because I want to be that person who is in control of all aspects. So I want to be the good daughter, I want to be the good bahu, I want to be the good mother, I want to know what project he's doing, I want to get on stage. So will I have 500,000 followers on Insta? No, I'll never have 500. Am I going to talk about things that 20-year-olds are keen on? No, I'm never going to. Am I going to move to LA and want to make it there? No, those are not my dream. I want to be able to do like all the things I'm doing now and do them well. So I feel sometimes at some level, if something goes out of whack, like tomorrow, like I'm on in some movie with Brad Pitt, then the rest of it I'm not doing justice to, and that will make me feel guilty also at some level, so I think that is the major change when you have a family, when you have kids, that I'm not as I've curtailed a bit of ambition, I suppose, and changed it a bit, and I'm not like wah about it. It's just different, and I quite enjoy it. I'm not here to climb every mountain. I'm still here. I mean, I think I'm the only female comedian who has a kid and a family and still does some sort of stand-up. So I feel like, okay. Sometimes I get. The thing is, I think women should support other women a lot more. I think sometimes women are women's greater enemies in like anything. I don't know why. It's weird. So sometimes like I will someone will say, you're traveling all the time. So son must be missing because you're never there to raise him. Like just like weird shit like this, dude.
Yeah, man, that's so mean, dude. Why are you slide tweeting in person? What is this?
What is exactly?
Ouch, dude.
I'm so besharam to my face. I was like, who are you? But yeah.
I think, but that's on some level, no, we don't like it when others are doing well, I feel, as humans, and it comes out in these weird ways sometimes, I feel.
Maybe, but even isn't that just also weird? Like someone once told me, I'm scared to go on a holiday for a week because I feel like that will get me out of the rat race. For 1 week you were scared to go on holiday? It's not even a thought that I would have had, and that really freaked me out. I was like, shit, what am I completely lacking? Any drive?
But that's the thing, a lot of people, and myself included, a lot of how I value myself also ends up being how I work. And because for me, like, the comedy is the only real thing I enjoy, and it's where I get my life's joy from. And you are somebody who can find joy in more than one place.
Thanks, that's a good. Thank you for making me feel better, Oprah. Yeah.
Now you get a Lexus. जो कि उसने Lexus नहीं दिया था, उसने और I think Caddy दिया था. But anyway, hey, what I found. I used to like you as a person and all, but he's a good person. Okay, great. And then Saurabh Pant told me that you are also into cricket.
Yeah.
And then every time I met you, I made it a point to discover another comedian who likes cricket. And I was like, yes, tell me all your cricketing opinions and stories. I will tell you all of mine, and we will be cricket friends.
Yeah. Remember we were planning to do some IPL show and all? Shit.
We are still planning to do the IPL show. Don't worry, वो show होएगा, dude, एक दिन तो होएगा वो show. हाँ, अगर IPL होएगा तो did you, so is it like enough in your family also, is there a lot of sporting stuff like with your parents?
So my mum is a big cricket fan. So I was watching a rerun of our 83 World Cup wins on the day June 20th. I said, okay, we must and all for nostalgia. Then I was trying to explain to Ayan. I was like, this is Malcolm Marshall, Joel Garner, like Michael Holding, trying to this thing. So and just obviously no interest whatsoever, right? So but at least the only takeout at the end of the day was, oh, West Indies was very good at that time and now they're not so good. That is the only takeout. But I also was trying to see, we went last year for the World Cup to England.
Yeah.
So went to Covent Garden, Ayan and I, and 1983 the film was being shot at that time. And I think this actor called Saqib Saklain, I think that Huma Qureshi's brother, was playing Mohinder Amarnath. So at a restaurant in Covent Garden, I saw Mohinder Amarnath sitting with Saqib Saklain, because obviously they were exchanging notes and
Yeah.
this was my physicality and whatever the shit. So I had half a mind. I was like, I'll just go and butt, and then I felt a bit awkward. I said no need. So I was trying to explain this to Ayan. Sometimes when you're more enthusiastic about like references and the historical significance of something, and then you're just met with atta
That's
face.
my life.
Like,
I'm constantly the
No
person
kidding.
who's excited.
So it's that. It was like, so it was like a cool idea because my mom. So it's going to be three generations, right? So my mom, myself, and my son going. And for the World Cup, she's like, oh, got these tickets. You get your visa, book your flight, and let's go. So first, I had to check bank balance and all. And I was like, do I need to send Ayan to school next year? Screw it. I mean, it's overrated. So we'll just, life is travel and learning. It's an education. So went for visa. Blah blah, and this chick told me that you need to this thing for Tatkal, because suppose I don't get the visa in time. I said, why won't the visa come in time? And how much more for the Tatkal? 20,000 each. I was like, madam, calm yourself. So anyway, so I said, what is this? They're making up for Brexit and all, one visa at a time. So anyway, so the visa came. And then we went. It was a huge moment. I'm so excited. Edgbaston, India versus England and all going. Ayan Mehta is. And I met Danish Seth at the entrance because he was doing interviews. So he was like, Anu, change. So it was like a really lovely atmosphere. And get in. My son was like, don't like it. It's really crowded. I was like, it's really crowded? I much prefer watching on TV. I was like, you have got to be shitting me. No, so he's like, I would rather watch on TV. I was like, Ayan, what do you mean crowded? There are only 15,000 people at Edgbaston. More people in Building Society meeting in Bombay currently. Like, what's going on? Then read a book throughout the match. Read a book.
Are you serious?
Akash Mehta.
No, I can hear you
Akash
still.
Mehta, you keep like disappearing on me.
Same. You have disappeared on me also.
Hello?
Can you hear me though?
Oh.
You have gone blank, but I can hear you. Here we are again. There you are again.
I am here.
I
Yeah.
I heard all of it. It was
Yes.
just frozen on your face being very weird.
Eggs. Lovely.
So how can he read a book? This is nonsense. Little bit.
Well, I was
No,
like, at
this
least
is-
it's an Enid Blyton book. She was British writer.
No,
Chal,
but you
kuch to.
have to. This is at what point do you put your foot down, Anu? At some point you have to say, "Hey, Gandu, kya kar rahe tu, yaar?"
And what a waste, no? Like some people would have killed to be in his place. And then next to us, there were some Sikh people who had walked in, waving some Khalistan flag and all. Okay, how they were allowed in the first place? It's a very calm morcha. Like some young boy, one of them was 10 years old, holding Khalistan and all. Obviously, the Brits didn't know what they represented. Just let them go in with this weird jhanda and all. Then suddenly someone said, no, it's a political movement, Khalistan and all. Then they were like, very calmly again taken. And one was filming his own protest and his own eviction from the stadium. It was all very calm. Like I was like, how British these Sikhs are. Like, they've come, they've protested and they've gone. Their entire duration of watching the match was 10 minutes. And that's it. And they've left the building.
Did you watch the finals live?
Yes.
Ah! Ah! It hurts me that. Ah! And your son also watched it live with you?
No, he didn't. I didn't waste it on him.
Good.
Sit at home.
Who
yeah,
you got?
don't deserve it. No, my mom and I went. My mom and I went
Oh,
and some
thank God.
other family friends. So that was. But I think there was like so much poetry in that as well, right? You walk into this match thinking, oh, you have no real horse in the game. It's fine, you know. You can watch it emotionlessly.
I'm sorry, how
And
do you
then
not
you're
have a
like-
horse in this game? We have to support New Zealand. You can't support England.
Obviously, I wore black also, the black cat, and then you're at the point of just bawling because because then it becomes a good versus evil thing. Then it becomes you're questioning life. Like Kane Williamson is everything I want my kid to be.
Yeah.
But is being good not good enough? Like is being good like not going to be rewarded in life? Is being a decent human being bad? Like how can they should never. And then when I saw, and especially when Eoin Morgan said, oh, I'm really glad that the team put together and we deserved it, I would have slapped the guy. Like I was, you're just seething from inside. I was very bitter at the end, very very bitter.
But I feel like वो ये वाला था ना, वो इंग्लैंड वर्ल्ड कप जीता but न्यूजीलैंड दिल जीता. You know what I mean? And unfortunately न्यूजीलैंड दिल ही जीतता है. उसके बाद भी कितना टाई किया वो लोग.
That's what, but then in this whole COVID situation, I was like, it's okay, Bichara New Zealand, they can't win a super over, but they can win against a pandemic. Chal, sab khoon maaf.
I think New Zealand, the only thing that can really threaten New Zealand health-wise is if something can attack sheep. Because
sheep, na? Yeah.
Have you ever been? I've never gotten to watch. I
Never
went
been.
as a child.
I've only been to Australia.
Oh, I haven't been to Australia. New Zealand was apparently it's Australia but nicer. That's what people told me. That's what my parents told me. I said, why aren't we going to Australia? They said, this is nicer. This is like that, but same. Everything is same, but it's cheaper and the people are nicer.
Yeah. We went to Melbourne, went to the Sydney cricket ground. No, sorry, Melbourne cricket ground. And then there was rugby season was finishing. So, and then I very slyly stole some grass and all from there. And I was like, is this what my life has come to? Stealing grass and putting a tissue in my handbag. I've been to Melbourne cricket ground.
Did you plant it at home?
No. And now I've lost it also.
Oh.
And went to Melbourne Park where the Australian Open happens, and then you forget also, the rest of the year it's a regular place. So suddenly it's like, oh, they had a Rod Stewart concert yesterday. I was like, oh,
yeah,
it just takes the enthu out of it.
Yeah, that's why the whole drop-in pitches wala scene happened in Australia first. No, they are using all of the stadiums for a bunch of stuff. It's just the idea that so many large-scale entertainment events happen there so often.
Yeah.
It really blows my mind, dude. I don't know when we'll ever reach that point. कि like cricket stadium में cricket खेलने का भी पैसा नहीं है ज़्यादातर लोग के पास. Like इंडिया का टीम खेलता है या तो IPL खेलता है. रणजी देखने कोई जाता नहीं है. It's not like there aren't enough artists that can book Wankhede and fill it in India only. Do you ever feel like, sorry, I got very existential and sad for a second. I just realized कि हम कब तक वो scale पे पहुंचेंगे मेरे को पता नहीं है.
No, but if you look at a lot of things, like when you were watching that rerun of that 83 World Cup, you were saying like you can make out properly, we were third world India. Like, we're not used to going. And now, who was the BCCI then? And Shrikant said that they were promised 25,000 rupees whether they win or they lose. And for them, it was so huge. And you really want to ball because it was huge. And now you're in that position of power where you're making the rules, right? Like other cricket boards are bowing down to you. They need the Indian team to go there and play to make money and for revenue. And I don't know whether it's karma or it's what, but I can't say I feel bad about it. So
but do you feel like we're responsible? Like, do you genuinely feel like BCCI is responsible with the power that it has?
I don't think when people have too much power, responsibility is even something that they think about. So, I mean, how many benevolent despots have you heard of? You know, so I don't think that's. But I do feel like I think it's a good thing that they gave money to all the people who played in yesteryears, because obviously they didn't have the money to do it so many years ago. So I think, at least now in this country, I understand that cricket is, but at least you can make a living even from playing Ranji Trophy, right?
Yeah.
So I think, yes, it is a step in the right direction. Now badminton is a valid sport. Like, we are making headway. Look, we are not. People keep thinking, oh, a country of 1 billion people, like we should be getting 20 gold medals. No, we're not. Genetics also has a lot to do with it. Body type has a lot to do with it. You know, so it's not
और
just
इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का भी कितना फर्क है यार. तुम आसमान जमीन का फर्क है इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में. वहाँ पे तो बच्चे को एटलीस्ट पौष्टिक खाना मिल रहा है बचपन से हर बच्चे को.
Exactly.
I agree. How was the experience playing tennis? I've realized this about a lot of entertainers, you know, like Saurav Ghosh used to be state level, like a national level karate champion.
Wow.
District level tennis person. Our producer Nishat was also state level tennis guy. What was it like playing tennis back then? Did you want to go further? Like,
I started very late. I had a terrible serve. And it was just something that I loved doing, so I did. So if you ask me, my greatest regret to this day is I haven't continued playing it. Like, I should have just at least been a weekend tennis player. Like, I should have kept at it. So in my head, I would, because I studied French, I would keep practicing in my head my victory speech at the French Open, because I was going to be the oldest winner of the ladies French Open. So anyway, so all that I used to do. But
what ages was this? What ages was this excursion?
I started only at 12, so I started very late. And then, being a good South Indian, I was very nerdy, so studies were important, and then 12th exams come and all of that, and then, you know, that life takes over. And anyway, I was never really good enough, so it wasn't about even pursuing it. It was just about, I should have continued doing it, you know, because it would have made my soul happy. But also, I think, because for me tennis is a great analogy for life. No, it's ultimately, it's just you on the court. You're surrounded by people. But they can't help you and keep giving you advice on what to do, you know, beyond the point. Like, you know, it's just you versus a ball across a net, another person. And so I think there is something in that about the way life is. So I always, it's 1-to-1. It's you. It's just you playing. It's you losing.
I always felt like Test cricket is the most accurate representation of life on a playing field. Because, like, a team has 11 people, and that's how I also feel like in my head sometimes, that I have these 11 different POVs on everything. And each POV has its own benefits and losses. And it's long. Yeah, have you ever noticed that all the things that people who hate about cricket are the things that people who love cricket love about cricket?
I don't know. I always also think, like, your choice of favorite sports person says a lot about you. Like, I told you this, I will pick Dravid over Sachin. I pick Nadal over Federer. Because, you know, it's that Steve versus Marco thing. Like, you know, I admire the hard work that you put into it that will override your maybe not as much natural talent or natural flair. So that I have a great deal of respect for.
What does it say that I love Rohit Sharma?
That's a little more that's just natural.
I'm a big fan of Rohit Sharma and Jasprit Bumrah. I think those are, and of course Hardik Pandya recently has come. I love that guy's attitude. Whoa, I saw.
Don't. I break out into hives. Let's not even talk about Hardik. I can't. I'll start gagging. I cannot.
Why?
Like, I physically feel ill. Like, I cannot bear the man. I don't know what it is. Like, he is just too much.
He's like, so, like, yeah, like he wants to get it done. He wants to be there. He's gonna make it. Like, it's a rapper attitude.
No, it's this constant gagging for attention no matter what. Like, in an IPL match, I went to Wankhede. He was at long on. Dude, he was spending so much time chatting with the audience. I'm saying, with the crowd. Just shut up and do your work, no? hey, come on, hey. And I was like, shut up. Just stop it. What are you doing? Are you 12 at a rock concert? Like, I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah, he is. Come on.
Listen, did you see that photo of him supposedly proposing to his girlfriend?
They went
Like
on
both
the
of them
boat
in
and all.
swimwear on a boat in the Dubai harbor or something. Obviously, someone is taking this, and this is how I prove. Why are you? Why do I need to see you all in swimwear? And you tell, I don't know. Nothing is private. Everything is a show. I can't bear it. It's making me angry now. Just let's move on from Hardik Pandya.
Oh wow. Anyway, Rohit Sharma, what a talent. What a talent.
Yeah.
He should be white ball captain, but I feel at least T20 we should give him. Virat Kohli I don't trust as a captain for white ball cricket. Red ball I think he's stubborn enough to get it because like he'll get good because he's that stubborn that he'll get good. But white ball में लड़के का मन नहीं लगता है मेरे को कभी-कभी captaining में,
But I don't think we will ever go the England route of having separate captains for separate formats. I mean, we should logically. But I think in India, the power game is so much. Like we're saying, it's not possible to give up the reins. Like if you एक करना है तो मतलब तीनों में करना है. It's like that.
But imagine an unleashed Virat Kohli that has no stress. उसको बस आके ठोक के जाने का है. क्या मस्त dude. Double 100.
I don't think he can play well then. I don't think he can do that. It's like Sachin needed the stress. He needed that pressure of being the best, of being the one on whose shoulders the team's hopes rested. I felt Sachin was a different player once that pressure was off. Like once you felt, oh, the Saurav can do it, Dravid can do it, so-and-so can do it. I don't think, like I honestly feel like some people just need that.
Like Michael Jordan.
Hey, have you seen that? There was a
The Last
docu-series
Dance.
on him, na? Yeah, I haven't seen it. I want to watch it.
I saw a bunch of it, but then I also felt like I watched it for the slam dunks actually. मेरे को इतना उसमें मतलब खुद का डॉक्यूमेंट्री प्रोड्यूस करो थोड़ा वियर्ड लगता है कि मैं किसी को पैसा दे रहा हूँ मेरे बारे में कुछ बनाने के लिए, तो फिर मेरे को लगता है पर इसमें फिर डॉक्यूमेंट्री नहीं है ना, फिर ये पफ पीस हो गया ना थोड़ा ऐसा. And I don't like any kind of puff. Puff pastry is the fucking worst thing humanity has made. Puff pastry is such a sham. एक तो I don't think they made any puff pastry after 1985. It's all that same old puff pastry. Because the box is always half full. Have you ever seen a puff pastry box at a fucking grocer? It's always half full. Who's eating the other half? Nobody's eating the other half. It's just that they got half because तभी rationing था and nobody ever bought anything. And that fucking veg puff, where is the veg? How is one fucking carrot and one watana is fucking veg? क्या चूतिया काट रहा है ये लोग यार? And then they want you to pay 18% GST also. Fuck off yaar. This is not, I can't deal only. That's how this is my Hardik Pandya, veg puff. Fucking veg puff.
In growing up in Madras, like I used to go to the theatre. So this guy has a great story where he said one Leher Pepsi, one veg puff. So the guy was giving him, or a Leher Pepsi or a veg puff. And so whenever people say puff now, I only hear veg puff now in my head.
How was it? Was it different growing up? Like, have you gone back home a lot now?
I go home a lot. Like, my parents grew up in Bombay, then moved to Chennai. I was born there, and when my mom was pregnant, she moved. And
You have the same house?
No, this is the second house. We were first living in an apartment, and then my parents bought a house. So when I say house, yeah, it's a house, not like.
कैसा ऑप्शन है नहीं उधर ऐसे ऐसा.
Yeah.
मैंने I was watching some cricket का live, तो है ना उसमें वो रोहित शर्मा केविन पीटरसन को बोलता है you have it very nice, in Mumbai,
I saw that.
you cannot, you have only balcony. बेचारा इतना कि रोहित शर्मा के पास भी घर नहीं है, ठीक है.
Yeah. And then there is Virat Kohli, going in his little cricket field of a garden, jogging.
I feel like Rohit is gonna come out a way better cricketer after this. I think there is something about just spending time with family and little kids and babies that is good for your performance in life. I don't know. My nephew was staying with us during the lockdown. It was the best, dude. 6 months ka hai. And they are the best. At 6 months, it's like no work at all. You just like throw them and shit, I don't know. I don't know what you do with your 6-month-olds, but.
I mean,
Like
I thought it was a
kids
bit
just
of
like-
hard work as a baby because they're not so interesting. Because they can't talk and shit and it's just painful. So at least now there's some fun interaction. He's chatty. I mean, now we should shut up more. But apart from that, he's like, for me, like that's more fun. Like when they start talking is more fun. Otherwise, it's like, oh, shut up, do that, sleep, and wasn't so fun.
I was telling Pant yesterday, I think kids are just pets that eventually hate you. You know,
I hope so, because right now he doesn't want to leave home, my son, yeah. He started crying the other day, he's very emo and all. I don't want to live separately. I was like, but okay, I was saying, okay, you know, you can live separately, your girlfriends can come and go as they want. Please don't, you know, live at home for it. Just go. There's some family flat and all, you can stay there. And give me, like, I'll give you, charge you
He's
minimal
8.
rent.
He's
Yeah. He's nearly
Why are you
8,
telling
yeah,
him all these things?
Arey, because it came up. He wants to discuss the future. Is it my fault? He brought it up. Then he's decided. Then he's telling me, I don't want. You will never be a grandmother. I don't want to have kids. I said, "ठीक है.
Wow.
Kids are too much responsibility. I can't take it. Don't have them." But every day he's making it a point to tell me, I will never be a grandma. Okay, na. मतलब.
It's okay. You know that other girl now whose childhood you ruined, she might have kids, so you can be their grandma. I think we made it full circle. This is a good point.
But I'll tell you one thing. I have realized this, you know, generally there's this debate, male comedians, female comedians, who's funny and and the thing is, it's always it's just a question of numbers, right? In terms of numbers, there are far more male comedians than there are female comedians. So if you ask your average person, who's your favorite of his list, it'll be like out of 1,000 male comedians, he'll say 5, he'll name 5, and there'll be one chick. So one chick, say, out of 100. So then you'll be like, arey, men are funnier. It's not, it's a numbers game.
It's a proportional thing.
Ultimately.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and also I feel like it starts so early in that when I see, you know, from kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, whatever, boys are used to being funnier because boys are also kamchors. And that's the truth. So like in a school play, the girls, because they're conscientious, they want to be good, they're so prissy and they want to be perfect and stuff, they'll be given most of the lines. So this one girl is spouting Gandhi, freedom, ye wo, unhone ye kiya, Dandi March, civil disobedience. And the boy will say, Gandhi, who's he? And the audience, ha ha, kya funny hai ye banda. You know? But it's only because this boy didn't have anything between his ears to remember so many lines that he was just given one. So they are just used to being funnier from earlier on. And the girl wants, like if you look at a fancy dress, the girl will always dress in some Elsa princess costume. Right. So this idea of I want to be princess, I want to be pretty, I want to be like, so that's one. So when I always see like a girl dressed as a witch, you know, like with a broom or something like that, I'll be like, that's the girl with a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Because I think from an early age, it's not even like the parents are telling them. Girls want to be princesses. They want to be pretty. They want to be. So it's a lot of it is just who, as a gender thing. It has nothing to do with, you know. So it'll always be that there are more male comedians than female comedians. It'll always
think it's
be
also, I think men use humor to attract women. I think.
Yeah, because women are always more attractive than men. Like there are more attractive women than attractive men. I mean, we have makeup to thank for that. But like, so in, you know, in the scale of things, that's the way it is. Like I've been told, the greatest thing I've been told is, you know, Anu, you're very pretty for a stand-up comedian, not pretty enough to be an actress.
Ah, must. Dehshak. Cue the meme music.
Best. Yeah.
Oh man. Alright man, this has been a great talk. Thank you so much for doing this, Anu.
Thank you. So sorry for the ins and outs of technology, but you know.
I think it will make for a very interesting episode. I'm just happy that no pet or child entered the room during this. And this is the most anyone has dressed up for my podcast after Sonali Thakkar. So what does that say about your theory? I think it's right.
Yeah. Because I feel like, you know, there's some show value. Like my mom always says, if you have to leave the house, you have to leave, you know, all your troubles, you have to go. Like put game face on and leave the house. So I always feel like even for a show, people think, look, oh, Anu, you're always dressed up. I was like, it's not that. I don't have to think about it. I just, that show feel nahi aayega varna. Like you don't feel like you're going to work or doing something if you don't.
Yeah,
like I
have
feel
that
like I'm
with,
dressed up.
I do that with shoes. I need to wear shoes even if I do a show at home. Like,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, I have a pair of shoes for each special and I only wear that shoe for that special and nowhere else. And it's like it gets me into the frame of mind to become that person for that night. You know what I mean?
Also, before I have to mention my friend Raghav Mandava. He called me, he messaged me, and I was like, "Oh, I'm just going to talk to Akash Mehta on his podcast." He said, "Please mention me once." I was like, "Okay, in what context? Doesn't matter." So I was like, "Okay then."
Okay, yeah, it sounds like a Raghav thing to do. I have to call him also next week for this. It'll be great. I asked Raghav, I said, Raghav, will you host the open mic on Monday? He's like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can do it, man. And then he's like, give me till end of day. आज Friday है. समझ रहे हैं? मैं बोल रहा मंडे बोला भाई तू मंडे को बता सकता है कोई ऐसा स्ट्रेस नहीं है oh yeah no I love Raghav he gets so
Even I love him. Like, he's so sweet. Like, and you know, the thing is, he's so used to me. Like, we go to Delhi to do shows. He knows before I go on stage, I'm actually not listening to Raghav. It's all white noise. It doesn't stop him from talking, though.
Yeah.
He's still as invested, even though he knows I'm not listening to him. Then post the show, he knows, okay, now Anu will chat with me 1 hour properly. So he knows the whole routine and he's still okay with it. And he's like, are you okay to do Zoom calls with friends? I was like, as opposed to just a WhatsApp video call between us? He was like, yeah. I was like, sure, I guess. He's so random, it's adorable. Like, it's just...
I love it, man.
How not to love? Yeah.
Yeah, man. And every time I watch him on stage also, it's not a joke. It's just Raghav explaining to the audience something. And in just the most hilarious way. Just connecting things and dots. It's beautiful to watch him. Anyway, chalo. Raghav bhi khush.
Thank
Akash
you.
bhi khush. Anu bhi khush. Audience bhi khush. Sab khush. Thank you so much for coming, Anu.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That ends the meeting for everybody. I just thought I'd give you a special message and a special thanks at the end of this. Thank you guys. Thank you for making this happen. I love doing this podcast and I love making it for you. And yeah. Bye.